My name is Brandon Neely. I joined the Army in August of 2000 as a military police officer. I was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas for 5 years. I deployed 3 times: Egypt, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and Iraq. I've seen and done many horrible things at 2 of those 3 deployments, but I'm here to talk about my time at Guantanamo Bay inside Camp X-Ray. We were told these were the men that planned 9/11 and that would kill us at any time if given the chance. At no time were we given any Geneva Conventions training, and we were told on numerous occasions these world's most dangerous men did not fall underneath the Geneva Convention. When the detainees arrived, they had on orange suits, some had orange ski caps. They had goggles on their eyes, earmuffs on their ears, surgical masks on their face, and black gloves on their hands. They were handcuffed and leg shackled. They had chains around their waist with padlocks on their back. The handcuffs were attached to the waist chain. The first person who got off the bus I will never forget. It was a man with one leg. He was later nicknamed Stumpy by everyone in the camp. He was grabbed by the escorting MPs, and Stumpy was jumping on one leg. The MPs were screaming at him to walk faster towards the hold area. From inside the bus, one of the Marines threw his prosthetic leg out onto the ground. Next, it was me and my partner. We grabbed the second detainee that came off the bus. We grabbed him like we were trained and took him to the holding area, yelling and screaming at him the whole way to get on his knees and shut up. One by one, the detainees were taken from the holding area to the backside of the camp, where in process it happened very quickly. Earmuffs, goggles, masks were taken off, their pictures were taken, and ID bracelets were made and placed on their wrist. Then the goggles and the surgical masks were placed back on until they got to the cages. We would take them to their assigned blocks, walking at a very fast pace. If they couldn't keep up, we would walk faster. We would scream and carry them to their cages. We were told one would go to Alpha Block, one would go to Bravo Block as we were spreading them out. On the first day the detainees arriving, I personally was involved in the very first incident in Camp X-Ray. My escorting partner and myself grabbed the next detainee leaving the in-process center. He was an older man, probably in his mid to late 50s, short and kind of husky build. I remember grabbing him and then starting to walk through the sally ports and through the rocks, heading towards the Alpha Blocks where he would be housed. Then I noticed he was really tense, shaking really bad and not wanting to walk or move without being forced to. We made our way onto the block and placed him in his cage. He went to his knees, which my partner then took off his leg shackles. I still had control of his upper body, and I could still feel him tensing up. Once the shackles were off, my partner started to take off the handcuffs. The detainee got really tense and started to pull away. We screamed at him, stop moving, and then so did the interpreter over and over. Then he suddenly stopped. Then when my partner went back in to take the handcuffs off, he made a move to the left and jerked. Before I knew it, I had threw the detainee to the ground and was on top of him, holding his face to the cement floor. At this time, my partner had left me in the cage by myself. The block NCOIC was on the radio yelling a code red, which meant emergency on the block. Before I knew it, I was being grabbed from behind and pulled out by the cage by the herb team. They grabbed this man and hog-tied him. He lay there like that for many hours before he was released from that position. A couple days later, I found out from a detainee who was on the block that the older detainee was just scared and thought when we placed him on his knees that we were going to execute him. He then went on to tell me that this man had seen many of his family members and friends executed in this manner. I did not feel good about what I did. It felt wrong. This man was old enough to be my father, and I had just beaten him up. I still to this day don't know who was more scared during and after the incident, me or the detainee. I remember seeing him the next day when I walked into the camp. His face was all bruised up and scraped up. I was young and I didn't question anything back then like I do nowadays, but even then, when I was as pissed off as anyone else, I felt ashamed of what I did. As the years have went on, the more I learned, the more guilt I feel. This is one of the incidents from my time at Guantanamo that truly haunts me. In closing, I just want to say, I finally got to see what a real terrorist looked like. Every time I turned on my television and saw George Bush and Dick Cheney lying to the American people. Thank you.